RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Iron Debate, the year-end episode of Iron Debate. I'm your host, Sadiq Baruchi. Glad you can join us. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and of course, a Happy New Year's to all that are watching. We're going to introduce our panel, but first we go to our Cape Coral studios and bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, a lot happening in 2017 in bodybuilding, and we're here to break it all down.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun end of the year show. Lee Priest was going to join us, but he was, there's a very big time difference. So John and I did an Iron Rage with him instead. And the news, just for those of you who might not have heard, is Lee Priest is having his tattoo on his face removed. So that's big news for 2017.
Really?
Tyler, our producer, I'm hoping you just caught GREGG Valentino's reaction to that news.
Not fast enough. Do it again, Greg.
I said, really? Because I love Lee. Lee's my boy.
Let's introduce the rest of our panel. Sitting in his car, we're going to call it the car cam, the man they call the technician, Chris Aceto. Joining us from South Carolina, now Mexico today, the man they call boss number 2, John Romano. And of course, the man himself joining us for the first time in about 3 months, GREGG Valentino. All right.
Momo.
Momo.
4 Italians and a Pakistani. What a group.
What are the odds? Let's get right into it. The first topic. Well, last year, we talked about the most sensational story of the year 2016. And of those stories, we talked about the slap heard around the world with Rich Piana and Jason Genova. We also talked about Giannis Makos, the Greek bodybuilder who slapped a show official after his Raw placing or what have you. And we had a fun debate over that. This year, not a lot of sensational stories, but one did hit the radar just about a couple of weeks ago, and that involved Louie Marco and William Bonac. It took place at the Dubai Muscle Show. And look, there are going to be all sorts of stories as far as who said what was said in a private conversation, what was said, amongst conversations where the two were tagged. But the reality is there was a confrontation and both sides had their side of the story. So, John Romano, we're going to go to you first on this one. And it's not going to be about who's right, who's wrong, but let's just assume, for argument's sake, that Louie Marco did say something that William Bonac, as a bodybuilder, a top bodybuilder, did not like. Does he have the right to go up to him, confront him, and it almost getting physical?
Well, yeah, this is one of those things where you kind of have to evaluate the parties involved, okay? Now, if Bonac had a beef with somebody like Peter McGuff, giving him a bad critique, I think McGuff's word is going to hold a lot of weight, and Bonac would kind of be humbled by the fact that, look, you're talking about probably the most eminent guy in bodybuilding right now in terms of ability to critique. And, he's a well-respected guy, and, this critique holds weight. So Bonac should be gracious in that and accept that. But now who the fuck is Louie Marco? Okay? So it's like me walking down the street and say, Greg, you're an ugly motherfucker, and push him. What's he gonna do? Now, if he's a decorated war veteran Navy SEAL, he's probably gonna just let it slide. If he's him, we're gonna be beating the shit out of each other in the street. So now, does one person have more of a right to critique somebody? No, we all have freedom of speech and the right to critique. The question is, what's your motive and who are you in order to give that to critique? So if you're a well-qualified person to critique somebody, the critique should be used as constructive criticism. It should be accepted. If you're some fucking punk trying to make a name for himself on social media who's got zero background in this sport with no cred, then you're going to take your chances because the guy you're dissing is probably going to smack you in the head, which is almost just what happened.
GREGG Valentino, does it matter, though, if it's a Louie Marco, if it's a Peter McGuff, or anybody else that you may or may not have credence in as far as his ability to evaluate?
Can I say something to what John
was saying?
Yeah,
Greg, it's for you.
Oh, okay. I agree with John. I think what John's trying to say is if you're going to open your mouth, you have to be able to suffer whatever consequences, happens. Like, it's okay for you to critique, but if the guy don't like it and he comes at you, you're going to have to fucking man up to it. I mean, anybody can open their mouth. You could sit here. People on the internet still say, well, Arnold was great, but he had no legs. You know what I'm saying? And shit like that, they'll find wrong with anybody. The guy placed third in the Mr. Olympia. And some people had him placing even higher, number one. Number two, Louie Marco had a bunch of goons standing around him, ready to pounce on Bonac if Bonac did something. And Louie Marco knew that, and he pulled that standard punk shit that when Bonac walked away, he started saying, yo, you ain't shit anyway. You ain't going to make it you're not even going to place in the top 6. See, that's the kind of shit. Does he have the right to say it? Yes. But he also then has to suffer the consequences of his actions of saying that shit. So, if you go up to a big guy, maybe in the UFC, and you call him a punker, you say to Mike Tyson, you're a, Nigger, you better be ready for whatever he comes back at. You have the right to say that to him, but you also, he also has the right to kick your ass for it. And I'm just saying, I think that's what John was trying to say is that, William, he pulled that shit with William Bonac, but he knew he had guys around him. Do you understand what I'm saying? And, he waited till Bonac started walking away, till he started. When Bonac was in his face, he was actually saying, I don't remember what I said. I don't know what you're talking about. But the minute Bonac started walking away, he started popping that, New York City ghetto shit. Yo, you ain't shit, motherfucker. You ain't even placed in the top 6. You're Sunday's news on Monday. And that's the shit I didn't like.
Chris?
Well, if you're gonna say negative things about people from your house and never go out, you're protected not by thugs, but you're protected by never having to appear around these people, the bodybuilders who you might be criticizing. So, it opens up a whole new can of worms for somebody on the internet if they're going to, talk the talk, but they're going to have to walk the walk in real life, and they're going to run into the Bonac who might have his, feathers ruffled by somebody. That being said, you know what? Bonac has come a long way. We all know that he was second place in the Olympia going into the night show. Second place. It's unbelievable. The guy packs a ton amount of muscle on his frame. And for him to be, my criticism of him is he shouldn't give so much energy, waste time and energy on the internet with regards to what people have to say. I mean, it'd be one thing, if somebody like Dave Palumbo, Dave was criticized, was doing the play-by-play of the Olympia, and Bonac looked great, and Dave said, he could be harder here, or I saw him better on the shoulders and delts last year, which would be like fraudulent reporting. Then, he might have a bone to pick. Dave's got a lot of credibility, and if Dave is kind of like throwing him under the bus, when everyone else sees that he's, obviously looks crazy, that's one thing. But for somebody who's, got a camera set up in his house, in Canada, criticizing him, he's, in Louie's defense, he's got to have thicker skin. People are going to talk crap about you all the time. And it just, we always talk about Phil and him having thin skin. Well, he's Mr. Olympia in the internet age. We don't know how Ronnie Coleman would have reacted if every single person had an iPhone and was criticizing Ronnie Coleman for having, distended gut this year, or he's flat compared to last year. We saw him better in '98. Maybe he'd, blow a fuse too. So, it's the era that we live in where anyone can become sort of like, can critique anyone because of the access to the internet. So, I understand and completely agree with what John and Greg have to say, but at the same time, it just seems silly that Bonac's wasting his energy, that he's upset that somebody's talking negative about him.
Ronnie would say, they're smoking crack.
Yeah, he probably would, but we don't know. He might have blown a gasket. You know what I mean? Because everybody, think of all the, I know it's about Bonac, but think of all the negative shit people have said about Heath in the last 4 years. They make it sound like he can't even place top 5 in the Olympia.
Yeah, but here's the point. Here's the thing, though. Louie Marco is positioning himself as a voice of authority because he's got this presence online. But he's not an authority. What is his cred? Where is Where's Louie Marco from? What magazine did he work for? How many years in the trenches? What qualifies him to give that critique on a top pro bodybuilder? You know, and
John,
position himself as a voice of authority online. It's different than some internet cowboy working with one light bulb in his mother's basement on a 18-year-old computer. Yeah. It's different, okay? But this guy is representing himself as an authority, and he's not. So if he's gonna spit that shit, he better be able to put it up when he confronts the guy he's talking about. And in this case, I think Bonac is in the right. I mean, obviously, I think it's always better to conduct yourself as civilly as possible. But in order to still confront him and take him and call him out on it, as who the fuck are you? That is I think more the topic than who has the freedom to do it. I mean, everybody has the freedom to do it, but Louie Marco's opinion does not hold any weight. Like I said, Peter McGuff, that's a completely different story. So you have to balance, who is this and what are they representing? And I think in this case, Louie Marco has no business critiquing any bodybuilder with any voice of authority. I mean, he's free to
Hey, John, he said on Dave Palumbo's show, Dave Palumbo interviewed him, and he said, I got in this. He was Dave put it perfectly. He said, you were at the top of the pyramid. He only got into this shit. He was involved in other shit, like I don't remember what the hell it was, raising turtles or whatever. Like I do some shit like that. And then he worked out a little bit. So nobody was talking about fitness. So he started talking about it. And people like all that on the daily and baby please and all that shit. So they kind of liked the way he talked. But he doesn't know shit. Dude, he's got the mass of a bikini girl, and he stands there flexing those fucking 14-inch cannons. You know what I'm saying? And then he's going to critique these guys. What does he know about bodybuilding? He actually said it to Dave. This is not what I planned. He was just a fitness enthusiast. He didn't even follow bodybuilding. And this is only, like fucking, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. He was, he's just a guy on the internet like a million other guys that are out there. He said, Dave, when I started talking about bodybuilding, nobody else was really talking about it. So now he's a fitness expert. And personally, I think the only reason why they're bringing him out there, okay, listen, I'm Italian, but I don't root for every guy that's Italian. But the only reason why they brought him out there is because he's Muslim, and that's a very Muslim gym, and they feel like he's one of them. And Sid, I know you're Muslim. I don't mean that in any kind of. Dude, I got fucking everybody in my family's, a different race, different gender, you name it, I got it, okay? So I don't give a shit about what your religion is. That means shit to me. I don't care. I'm Italian, but that doesn't mean I root for an Italian guy over whatever. Not at all. But I think that he's just, why would they even bring him to Oxygen Gym when he is really not a bodybuilder? He's never competed. Like John said, he's never worked in our industry or any of that shit. He only lifts weights as he told Dave, I watched your interview. He said to you, I did it just as almost like recreationally. He worked out a little bit, but because YouTube was new, and nobody was talking about this shit, he saw an opportunity and started talking about it. Right, Dave? I mean, isn't that what he told you?
Yeah. Yeah, no, he said that. But I'm gonna defend him for a second because you know what? He isn't an authority. However, he has a following. And in the social media age, if you have a big following, okay, then you have a voice that's being heard. He's got, almost 500,000 people who subscribe to his channel.
Right.
That's the worst.
That doesn't make him an authority,
John,
but it does give him a voice. Now, everyone is entitled to their opinion. Now, because he has such a big following, anything he says gets amplified. If initially I was breaking his balls online a little bit, just just to be funny, and all his, he's got 500,000 followers. I'm getting people, giving me hate shit, and I wasn't even being malicious. I was just being funny about it. So I respect what he's done with his social media following because obviously he has the ability to put videos up. He makes them interesting.
No way.
He makes them interesting enough for people to listen to.
Yep.
William Bonac.
Then he should preface it by saying this is pure fiction.
No, but you know what?
He
doesn't have to say. He doesn't have to market it as anything. You don't have to listen to it. He makes fun of me. John, I don't go after him. I don't care.
John, what about the Mexican guy? What about the Mexican guy that just he was at 15 years old? He started drinking so much on fucking that he would drink and say stupid shit. And then he started fucking ranking on the cartel. He had over 1.5 million viewers. The fucking cartel just killed him right in front of every. They shot him dead in a fucking cafe because he kept opening his mouth. He had 1.5 million viewers. Was doing rap videos, and you know what his claim to fame was? He would drink alcohol to the point where he'd get stupid drunk, say fucked up shit, and fall down in front of a camera. That's the problem with social media because that kills this sport. When people think that momos like Louie Momo fucking. Can talk for this sport. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't. He's bad for the sport. You know what I mean? Other people come into this,
but Greg,
taking his word for it.
These guys are here to stay. These social media guys are here to stay. So you got to have thin skin. You can't beat everyone up in the world. You know that.
Well, you know what? Valentino's, has his opinion, and it sounds like. I think that we're going to see a confrontation between Louie and Valentino next.
That's right.
Oh, dude.
I want to get that one on
and me.
I want to get that one on
I just,
so that when you leave and you're 25 feet away, you can say, go back to New York and I'll kick your ass.
Hey, I put a wig on him and treat him like a bikini girl, right? I give him Spam. You know what Spam is? Ham in his can. That's what I do.
But you know what? This idea that the social media following has any weight is ridiculous. Because okay, let's say John Romano's got 7 million followers, and I get up there and I say, GREGG Valentino had his penis removed and he's got it and he had it installed in his left ear and it hangs out. Okay, completely false. But now I got 7 million people who believe it, and they're all talking about GREGG Valentino with a dick hanging out of his ear. Okay. So how does that help GREGG Valentino? It's a malicious attack on somebody who has relevance only due to the fact that there's 7 million momos following him.
John,
let me say one more thing about John. John, you're right, because you know why? You talk about us. Who's been ranked down more than us guys all on here? All of us have been targets for years.
On this panel, exactly.
Yeah. All right, but wait a minute. He's the one who needs thicker skin. That's the motherfucker, not the people out there, but him. He's the one that I guarantee all of us are blocked on his fucking YouTube network because he can't take hearing what the fuck we have to say. Yet we've been in this sport before he was born. I was in this I started working in 1972 and shit. I stepped on stage with the AAU in 76. Ran shows for the NPC. Steve Weinberger's show, The Atlantic States, was my show before it was his show. You know what I'm saying?
I want to bring Dave back in this, but I want to clarify a couple of things. One, it's not just Louie Marco's following, which has made him relevant in the fitness industry. It's the fact that so many of these top pros have openly shared relationships with him. They have, openly addressed him. Right? They'll openly send him inside progress pictures. Right? We're talking about all the top pros, not just.
They want him to talk about them.
Right. But not just the oxygen guys. Look, when Phil Heath wins his 7th Sandow, gets off the stage, and the first thing he does is makes a live video addressing Louie Marco. That, in addition to his 500,000 followers, is what's giving him credence. But Dave, I want to bring you back in this because you had a near run-in with Flex Wheeler in Germany. And the genesis of his beef with you was the fact that you had GREGG Valentino commenting on his comeback to classic physique. Now, again, we talk about the weight and credibility of somebody who's analyzing, right? We talk about Louie Marco, John Broad, Peter McGuff. But Flex Wheeler is talking about GREGG Valentino, who to many is a credible expert. So where do we draw the line?
Whoa. That is apple and orange comparison. You can't do that. Dave and Flex have a friendship, okay? So the beef comes from the fact that, Dave, you're my friend. What the fuck you letting Valentino say this shit for? It goes along those lines. It's completely different.
He threatened to get physical with him. That's what I'm saying. So clearly there was tension there.
Yeah,
of
but
course,
John,
I think that goes more towards the affront to the friendship rather than what was actually said.
No, but what was said? What was
Dave-
said that you had Greg on talking about me? Period.
He said
So what
that
gives you
none
the
of
right to
us
say
are
that?
qualified. None of us. He thinks that because we're not Olympia competitors, we're not qualified.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point. Where do you draw the line?
But we're industry people. He's, listen, I'm not, I don't want to blast him anymore. I'm sick of that shit. Whatever he wants to do, he does. You know what I mean? But listen, we've made our bones, all of us. You know what I mean?
Right.
I worked for MD for 15 years. John was fucking the boss over there for 18, 19 years or whatever it was. Dave was the boss over there for many
Chris was
years.
there too?
We've all been around. I've been around before Flex. Not for nothing.
Well, I mean, who can? I mean, if no one on this panel can criticize him in terms of his comeback, who can? Just the guys who have been on the Olympia stage.
And he would be mad at them.
Well,
He would be mad at them too.
That's right. He said, of course he would. Of course he
If
would.
Kevin LeBron would have said, Jesus Christ, Flex is fucking crazy coming back, he would be mad at Kevin. He'd be like, yo, they all hate Shawn Ray. Shawn Ray's one of them. Shawn Ray is placed just as high as he has, and he was mad. Now, look, I don't have any beef with Flex. I actually like Flex Wheeler, and I feel bad about slamming him for that, and I apologize for that because I shouldn't have. But the thing is, he was mad at they're all mad at fucking Shawn Ray, and he's one of them. So what it is these bodybuilders, I think, need to thicken their skin. I think it's thin skin. It's not us.
Well, listen, Greg, Greg, that's what I said. I mean, that goes right back to me saying about Bonac. You got to, I mean, your feathers are ruffled by a guy in Canada who, and try to minimize his weight, or if you have, even if I'm critical of Bonac, if you're going to be, it comes part and parcel with being a bodybuilder. People critique your physique, but they take it personal. Right. They take it personal. They can't separate. It's not like critiquing your, a meal at a restaurant.
I think the reaction is magnified by the fact that they're thinking these guys should be on my side. They're all my friends. What are they dissing for? Okay, versus complete strangers that are critiquing them. I think the fact that they're assuming these are my boys, they're gonna hold me up,
right?
And we don't. That's where the dimension increases. The way they feel about being let down. So I don't think it's. I also think the skin needs to be thicker. That's a given. But I think they're also feeling let down by the fact that they feel like we should be holding them up and we're not.
Right. We all went to dinner with Flex. We all worked with him. We all worked with him at MD. We all sat and ate dinner with him with Steve Blackman. All of them guys.
That's the rubs.
But what I'm saying is that I understand that. I understand like we're supposed to be listen, like I said, I apologize to Flex. I don't want to critique anybody anymore like that. I'm saying about Louie Marco because Louie Marco to me is a totally different animal. He's some guy that just sits there. He doesn't even do his own work. He pops up pictures that somebody else took and says, look at him here. You know what I mean? He's got no legs or he's got no this or he's got no, he's not even doing his own work. Anybody can sit behind. You know how many of these guys do that shit? They get online and they talk about like, somebody will take this interview here and they'll cut it up and say, GREGG Valentino talks shit about Louie Marco on the day, on RX, and they'll reuse all of our work that we're doing. Like, you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, original content.
The difference, Frank, is you're not going to lose sleep over it.
No,
exactly.
I'm not going to. I won't even remember it when we hang up here.
Yeah,
I got other shit to worry about.
That's the difference, and that's being a bodybuilder is very odd today because people, including guys in the Olympia, live on social media. And and human beings love to be validated. And if even someone in their garage has a negative thing to say about so-and-so's placing at the Olympia and it gets, 50,000 hits or something, these guys, it's ridiculous, but they get upset.
But, the other thing is people love talking about negative shit and they hate talking about positive shit. So any chance you get, if you have a choice, something good, something bad, you're going to talk about something bad because That's just what we do. So there's nothing interesting about being good. So I'm not going to sit. No one is going to sit there and praise, Bonac or praise, Phil Heath and expect to get any coverage out of it. Now, if you diss the guy, that takes it to a whole different level.
Yeah, but Bonac placed third.
And he could have placed
second place. We're all fucking. We're not. I mean, for this guy to rank him down. I mean, I understand if Bonac last year, like next year, let's say he places 15th, and then Louie Marco throws shade about that. But the guy could have even won the Olympia. He was that good, and the way Louie Marco let Bonac blow off the steam, but then pop shit as Bonac was walking away and saying, "You're irrelevant. You're not even going to place in the top 6 next year. You're done."
Greg, that is a summary of his character, actually, because you can't say that Bonac is not a top 6 Olympian. You can't say that he's not like one of the best in the world. You can't say that he's not one of the most improved. And part of it, the convoluted truth of the matter is that he pumps up people in Oxygen Gym, and William Bonac is not going to be an Oxygen guy. And he shits on Phil Heath, and Phil Heath is obviously his own person. So those two guys are most in the way of anyone competing out of Oxygen for the Olympia title. I mean, that's a fact.
Good point.
So
that's a good point.
Convenient to be able to talk crap about Bonac, or to never shut your mouth about Phil Heath's quote gut, even though I was right there and I didn't have any issue. I don't care how many thousands of pictures come out. I watched that prejudging, and I want Phil Heath to lose. And I leave prejudge and say easy win. Bonac second, and it's how interesting is it that he's talking about negatively about these two guys, and these two guys hate him most. It's because he's talking about him with the motivation to, he thinks, influence people because he wants to see people from Oxygen beat these guys.
I'm going to bring Dave.
That's a good point.
I'm going to bring Dave Paloma back in this, but I'll say this as a closing note on this topic. Look, it's a shame because if you think about William Bonac, this run of his started back in 2015 in the post-Olympia tour. He started making his move. He did really well, top placings, those post-Olympia shows. I believe the San Marino Pro, correct me if I'm wrong. 2016, he was the surprise of the Olympia, burst onto the scene. And then this past Olympia, you could very well argue that this guy could have come in second place. He was by far, the talk, other than Big Ramy and Phil. He was the talk of the Olympia. And now this is what we're talking about to close out the year. Dave Paloma, final word on this topic.
Yeah, I want to just say one thing, and like I said, I'm not trying to defend Louie Marco anything because I think that everyone's responsible for their actions, but I don't think Louie Marco actually was really a Bonac. He didn't say anything bad about Bonac. In other words, he never called him bubble gut or anything like that. There was a disagreement with them, and I don't know how that came about, but I think that the topic is relevant because there are guys in social media now who are becoming relevant even though they haven't earned their stripes, so to speak. We're all on this panel have earned our stripes in a sense, from either competing, promoting shows, working for magazines, reporting on the sport. And I think it's hard for us to accept this new generation where they don't care if you have any street credibility. They don't even know anything about the past of these people who listen to YouTube. All they know about is who's relevant on YouTube, and it's the YouTube generation. And Louie Marco is a product of the YouTube generation. He got involved very early, like a pyramid scheme, and he became a relevant, spokesperson. Does he have credibility? Yeah, I think he does have some credibility in the sense that he critiques people, and he's a student of the sport. We might not like it because he hasn't come from a conventional sense of being relevant, but the bottom line is what Chris said. These athletes have too thin a skin. And if they think that Louie Marco is their friend, they're wrong. Louie Marco's friend is the YouTube subscriber channel and the hit number on his videos because that's how he makes his money. So he is going to critique hard, either positive or negative. So if Phil Heath wants to call up Louie Marco and break stories with him rather than call real news agencies, then he has to be open to take the criticism of Louie Marco. If William Bonac doesn't like what Louie Marco has to say, just ignore him. That's all. That's the easiest way to get around it. I mean, it almost segues into the next topic, Sid, about bubble gut.
Exactly.
Bubble gut gate, which was, Phil Heath thinking that Louie Marco is his friend, and then Louie Marco critiqued him very hard by the pictures he saw of the Olympia, feeling that Phil Heath, because, when you take pictures at a show, you're not necessarily seeing the show properly. You're seeing in-between poses, you're seeing, off-stage poses, and if a guy's letting his stomach hang out, that can give the appearance that that's how he looked while he was executing the mandatories, which was not the case. So Phil became a victim of Louie Marco's popularity and of what Phil perceived to be someone that he befriended who should look out for him.
See, again, that's where we're going to draw the line. Again, we're going to transition to the second topic, but that is, the preempt is that, again, a journalist, an analyst, whether you're highly decorated, highly qualified, highly published, or you're on the opposite end of that ladder, again, you're going to critique, you're going to analyze, and to Chris's point, an athlete should have thicker skin. If somebody's going to come and say something negative about their physique, they have to be okay with it. They may not agree. They may not, like that person. They may not like what they have to say. But again, your job is to be a top Olympian. Your job is to be a top athlete. So again, let's talk bubble geek. Chris Aceto, we're going to go to you first on this one because this topic dictated a lot of the conversation during and after the 2017 Mr. Olympia, which saw Phil Heath winning. Oh, by the way, if all these things, Phil Heath winning his 7th straight Sandow, which seems to be buried in the totem pole of conversations. Chris, the Bubblegate conversation really dominated many of the headlines. Was it justified? You were sitting front row. A, was it justified? And B, should somebody who was not at that show have that kind of valid opinion and be able to label it as a bubble gut or anything along those lines?
It's completely illegitimate. It's completely illegitimate. I have a very vested interest in seeing Phil Heath lose because I help people on the show. I would like to see him lose. If he was out of the way, it'd be easier for someone I like to win, or I help to win. And so I would be the first, I've been critical of Phil Heath's physique in the past in certain years where I didn't think he looked good. I think he looked great this year. He was in the best condition of anyone in the lineup, whether it translates into photos or not. He was like shrink wrapped all over. He was extremely full. And at no point in any quarter turn in the competition did I have any issue whatsoever. And I watched the show very closely with, quote, his gut. At no point in the front lat spread, front double, side chest, side tricep, back shots, back lat spread, most muscular, do I have any issue whatsoever with this midsection. He has no abs and thigh shot. That's his worst shot. It's like the worst of the top 6 guys, and he gets crushed there. And that's about it. Anything else is just fictitious bullcrap. And, as you pointed out, if you take 1,000 photos of somebody in a lineup, you can see people making dumb faces, goofy faces. You can see their gut hanging out at different angles. It's like they take these back double bicep shots of these guys and their stomachs are hanging out. Of course it is. You know what I mean? The way they lean back. And yes, there's an issue with people with gut distension, but it's so blown out of proportion, it's ridiculous. And again, it's only fictitiously created because there's a vested interest in seeing him lose by Louie. He wants to see him lose. He wants to see him especially lose now, and Bonac especially lose now that, these guys aren't, quote, friendly with him. That's the way it is. That what I just said, it's in his interest to see, it's in his vested interest to see Phil not do well and Bonac not do well. That is just not even my opinion. That's just a fact.
John Romano?
This whole thing with the guts has turned into like a witch hunt. There's this faction of people who watch bodybuilding shows only to find the guts sticking out so that they can get on social media and talk about how the big guts are ruining bodybuilding. But to me, fuck Phil Heath. Let's go back to Dorian Yates, okay? There's a great shot of Dorian Yates. He's backstage. He's off to the side. He's minding his own business. He's taking a drink of water and his gut's sticking out, okay? You look at any of his poses on stage and tell me if he's got a gut. No, he doesn't. When you hit a shot, when you hit a pose, it's just like, here's my lats sticking out. If you're sitting there like that, are you going to say, "Well, I don't have any lats because I'm not flexing them"? It's the same as holding your gut in when you hit a shot. When you make a body that's supposed to be 130 pounds and you make them 240 pounds, the muscle in the abdomen is going to grow also. It's not going to not grow. So you're going to have a muscle there that needs to be controlled. So when you hit your shot, when you're flexing and you hit your shot, and you're on stage, you're center, you're hitting your shot. If your gut's sticking out, then okay, you got a gut problem. But if you do not have a gut when you're flexing on stage, it doesn't matter what candid shot somebody takes of you backstage when you're not holding it in. It's just like not flexing your bicep or not holding your lats out, or not keeping your glute striated or your Christmas tree out. It's part of the pose. Taming your gut is part of the pose. So if you're photographed not hitting a pose, no one's got any business telling you or the world that you got a big gut, because it's bullshit.
Right.
I personally think that the guts are for real. I agree with John somewhat that I believe that when they're relaxed, these guys look for pictures for the moment a guy relaxes for a split second or actually takes a breath. Like maybe, you know what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden, let's get that shot right there. Okay. I do believe the guts, though. There are guts there, but I don't believe that. I believe that, that's what's going to happen when you're getting guys that are 300 pounds in the off season and all this other shit. I mean, if Arnold Schwarzenegger was to compete today, he'd be like 10 or a little bit more than 10 pounds at most away from being a 212 guy. Do you understand what I'm saying? He only weighed like 224, Schwarzenegger, and he's 6'2". You know what I mean? These other guys that are in that show are shorter than me. I'm 5'6", this guy 5'3". Look at my boy Alessandro. At 5'1", the guy, guy's like 255 in the offseason, and he ain't fat. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying to you is the bodybuilders today is so much bigger. You know what I mean? I remember walking behind Jay Cutler, and he had it looked like he had a 40-inch ripped waist. You know what I'm saying? It's just that goes with the more mass. I think it's going to be hard to see guys competing, 265, 270, and not have something there. You know what I mean? Because just the amount of food you got to eat stretches that. But let me just say something about the Big Ramy thing. When he turns behind, he's a totally different bodybuilder. His calves are MIA. His hamstrings don't pop and aren't split. His back is not as wide, but it's not. He doesn't have all those apples and shit. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, from behind, he's a totally different bodybuilder. So these guys that are screaming about all this shit, you can critique anybody for it. How come nobody bitches about his calves? His thighs are so fucking big. He's got pegs for calves, but nobody says shit about that. There's a lot of things to me that are flawed with these guys today. And I agree with John. I do believe that they are looking for that moment where a guy just relaxes a second or takes a breath in the wrong way or whatever. You stand there and you're breathing, huffing and puffing like that with your hands on your hips, and there goes your gut sticking out, I mean, I believe, that that's the case. I've seen even pictures. Victor Martinez, to me, is the best build. I love Victor. You know what I mean? But I've even seen pictures where he's exhaled and shit, and people are going, look, he's got a gut. And I see him personally. He does not have a gut. You know what I mean? You can make a guy have a gut if you want. I mean, there's probably a picture of Frank Zane taking a breath out or in, you know what I mean? Where his gut is a little bit, coming out, I'm just saying. I do believe that it's real, but it comes with the territory. You're not going to see a guy with a fucking waist like Brian Buchanan, yet weighing even in the off season like 300 pounds or coming to the stage at 250. It ain't happening. I just feel like that it's part of what the direction this sport's going in. And until they start grading guys lower, you know what I mean, and start for being too bulky, too waist too wide. There's nothing pretty about a 40-inch ripped waist.
Well, listen, Greg. I guess the question becomes, is it the dishonesty is the idea that Phil Heath should not be Mr. Olympia because he had the biggest gut in the universe.
That's retarded.
No.
Okay, so John just answered my question. You answered my question.
I agree. I think that, Phil Heath has got the roundest bellies and shit like that. He hasn't won the Olympia 7 years in a row because he's a Momo. I mean, he obviously has a phenomenal physique up there. And when he stands next to guys like Big Ramy, when you see him backstage, Big Ramy's so much bigger than him. But when you see him standing next to each other on stage, he holds his own because just like Frank Zane did against Mike Benser, we all know that Zane was not nearly his size of Menser, but that beauty that he has in his physique, that those lines. I mean, you can't say he can't win the Olympia because his gut. He's more complete than those guys.
Well, there's the rub. I mean, there's the lack of credibility. In the assessment that Phil is winning and he shouldn't be winning because he's got a gut, and that's the way it's being shoved down people's throats.
But that goes what we were just talking about in the last subject. When you have a guy like Louie Marco, if we had some kid in his basement and other teenagers relate to that, they relate to these young guys, you know what I'm saying? Because they're not far off in age. And if you had some kid talking about the NFL and he's got 1 million hits, do we say, well, he's got credibility, he knows about the NFL, or are you going to watch NFL today, right?
Dave would say, well, Dave would say, well, Greg, just because you played in the NFL 25 years and 3 MVPs, this is the YouTube generation, and this high schooler knows a lot about the NFL.
But he has relevant. But these people are relevant. They're relevant in this industry because people are listening to them. If no one listened to them, then they wouldn't be relevant. But they are relevant. So we have to.
They're only relevant.
They are relevant, John, because people are listening to them. If you ask people who listen, I get 1 million people.
Dave.
Which people are listening to them?
You're right.
I think there's two distinct things here.
Yeah.
Is they to defend Louie Marco, he's got a big following, right?
Yeah.
But listen, if Phil, Ramy, or that's a top 3 in the Olympia. Let's say they're all on friendly basis with you, Dave, or with Louie Marco, and Phil and Ramy and
no, wait a minute.
Wait, hold on.
Hold on. What John Romano's trying to say is that if you, Dave Palumbo, you got maybe 100,000 followers on RX, right?
Right.
And Louie Marco's got 1 million. But if John Romano wanted somebody who's in the industry, wanted information about what really went on in that show, he's not going to watch Louie Marco. He's going to watch you, who's got 1/10 of what Louie Marco has. Right. Am I right or wrong, John?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Listen, Greg.
You're right.
You can take
it's like saying.
One step further. You can take it one step further. I know it's not going to happen because Phil's got his own little, universe that he lives in. But if Louie Marco said, or some guy on that with 30 million followers on Instagram said, let me show you how you can, bring up your back a little bit better, or how you can bring in your detail on your back a little bit better. If the Instagram guy said it and Dave said it, which one would have more credibility to the athlete? The athlete.
Dave, of course, Dave. What I'm saying is, why would you go to Louie Marco to find out? You know who goes to Louie Marco? Guys that just, why he's popular? Not because he knows something, because I like the way he goes to daily. And I like the way he says, please, baby, please. That's what made him popular. Showing 1 million simple guys.
Let's go to John.
I'll sum this up. In the very, very beginning, when Greg, Dave, me, and who else? Derek Anthony, when we first did the original Muscle Mob, okay, for the other guy, all right, we were hosted by what? Air America, Radio America, or some
Voice
host,
America.
Okay, some network, right?
Voice America.
What was it?
Voice America.
Voice of America. Unbeknownst to us, we had like a 300,000 or a 30,000 following of gamers who were following our show. People playing games. They had zero interest in bodybuilding whatsoever. They just liked us. Okay, so if they're talking now we have this giant following among gamers. We know nothing about gaming. We don't talk about gaming. So what are they watching us for? They're watching us because they liked us, and we had this huge following. Now, if we're going to take this following and say, okay, we're going to go to a supplement company and say, we have 30,000 followers. You should pay us X amount of dollars to promote your subject. Well,
right.
Product. Well, unless he's selling, controllers to the Xbox, it's pointless.
I agree with John Romano, 100%. Nobody's going to watch Louie Marco, who knows anything about the sport. I need to know what went on in the Olympia. Let me watch Louie Marco. It's fucking momos that, like, I want to see him rip. You know what it is? I want to see him rip apart Phil Heath. I like when he does that bubble gut shit. But if somebody, like I'm friends with Ron Norman or somebody else in this sport wants to see, oh shit, I wonder what went on in the Olympia, they're going to watch you, Dave. They're going to watch an RxMuscle because you're going to give them the... They don't take what Louie Marco says credible. Those are momos. What John is trying to say is that all the people that listen to us on Voice America, there was no bodybuilding on Voice America. That wasn't filled with bodybuilding audience. Those people watching crochet, cooking with Jack, and shit like that, they only watched our show because these guys are nuts. They're all fucking guineas from New York. They're talking like, holy fuck, hey, holy. You know what I mean? That's what they like. Jimmy the Bull. The reason why Jimmy the Bull is so popular on your show is because, you like him drinking a little bit and he starts getting fucking angry and playing the guitar and the piano. You're not watching him because you want to see what the fuck he says about Phil Heath. He don't even give a shit. He'd be the first one to tell you, hey, fuck Phil Heath. I don't care.
He didn't even know
going
who
to
he
work
is.
tomorrow. They don't get. So what I'm saying is when PJ Braun actually in an interview said it perfectly. He said, I'd rather have... he said, I've seen people who have 1 million Facebook followers and they can't sell a supplement. And then there's another guy who's got 10,000 Facebook followers, but they're all dead nuts, fucking loyalists. And if that person tried to sell his product, they would do more sales than the person with 1 million because they're just tuner-inners, like what John said. They're a lot of gamers. There's momos out there that just want to. They like I like the way the daily and the gut shit. It's funny. But they're not watching him really because they take what he says serious. Nobody fucking, you know what I mean? They don't fucking know. He doesn't know shit about the Olympian stuff. I mean, come on. That's the way I look. I agree 100% with what John just said.
Dave, final word on the topic. Again, let's steer back to the bubble gut mania, the quote-unquote bubble, because it did dictate so much of the conversation from the Olympia to now. Your take. Wrap up this topic.
Yeah, I agree. I said it right from the beginning. Number one, first of all, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks. Unless you're in that front row at the Olympia, you don't know what the competitors really look like. And let's face it, Chris, myself, we're sitting in the press pit there right behind the judges. We see what's going on. And if we thought Phil Heath didn't deserve to win, we would have said it. It's very hard for someone at home to critique based on pictures and stuff like that because you're getting a skewed view of what's going on. Once again, I'm going to go back to the point. Relevancy. In the social media age, the social media butterflies are relevant, okay? I hate to admit it, they are. People watch them, they listen to them, and they're influenced by them. If a die-hard bodybuilding fan is interested in the real story, of course they're going to come to RxMuscle. They're going to listen to me and John and Chris because they know that we have experience. Unfortunately, I feel like the industry is slipping away from us and is getting into the hands of the social media people. So rather than create a war with each other, I think we almost have to kind of work together in a sense to try to balance out what's going on. And I think by doing that, I think it's going to make us all more relevant. Because let's face it, the more people, the more subscribers we have on RxMuscle, the more relevant our opinions become, and the more stronger our opinions become, even though we know that they're much more accurate than what's going on out there. Why Phil Heath would take personal offense to anything that someone like Louie Marco would say is a testament to right there that even Phil Heath believes that Louie Marco has some relevance in our industry. If he didn't, he wouldn't have said a freaking word, especially right after he gets off stage. So how do you explain that? That's where the conundrum really occurs, I guess.
John?
Yeah, but can I ask you a question, Dave? You sell supplements, you got Species and everything.
Yeah.
Don't you think that would you advertise with Louie Marco saying he's got 1 million people? No, because those people that are there, that's what PJ Braun was trying to say, is that just because a guy's got 1 million followers doesn't mean that's 1 million potential buyers. He said, I'd rather have a guy who's got a lot less followers, but every one of those followers are loyalists, are your followers, Dave, that follow RxMuscle. Most of those people are all real, bodybuilders and bodybuilding industry. So you'd be better off advertising with you than advertising with you understand, with a Louie Marco. Because
Call us. We need advertisers. Call us. My line's always available. Feel free. Thank you, Greg, for that wonderful endorsement. I agree.
It matters who you're relevant to. If I'm selling beef, do I care if I'm relevant to 500 million people in India?
Or vegans?
They don't eat beef. So it doesn't matter. Cow's sacred over there. You can't eat it, okay? So what do I care if I'm relevant to them? I care if relevancy has to be geared towards your audience, because what does relevancy translate to?
I agree.
If I have X amount of followers, those followers are supposed to be the people to whom we advertise. I'm not going to advertise beef to people in India. So if I'm relevant to them, who gives a fuck? So if I'm relevant to 15 people who eat beef on the corner over here, I care if I'm relevant to them, because they're going to buy beef from me. So as these YouTube channels load up with followers, I care about who the followers are, because if they're not going to buy my shit and YouTube is not paying me yet for how many followers I got, it's absolutely irrelevant. It means nothing. It means zero. So if my business model is to sell advertising, I'm only going to sell it to a relevant audience. I'm not going to sell it to anyone who's not. So I don't give a fuck how many followers I get. I care about who the followers are.
On that note, Dave, we're going to wrap up this show 2017. I want to go to you and only you on this one. Again, it's been a year of ups and a year of downs. Of course, the bodybuilding industry has been rocked sensationally this year by several deaths in the industry. And while, look, it's going to happen year in, year out in any industry. You're going to have deaths. You're going to have notable deaths. This year seemingly stood out because within a span of about a month, we lose Dallas McCarver. We lose, and in a complete stunning turn of development, we lose Rich Piana, within a span of 3 weeks before, he was sent into a coma and then eventually passed away. Two very notable deaths. And then, of course, just a couple of weeks ago, if not last week, Shawn Perine, former editor-in-chief of Muscle and Fitness magazine. So highly notable deaths. I wanted you to just reflect a little bit on what the bodybuilding world lost in 2017.
Yeah, I did a video on Christmas yesterday about that, about how I felt about, this time of the year is a great time to really reflect on the people that we lost in our industry, because we're always losing people. There's no way to stop it. You don't know when your day is up, so to speak, and you got to really kind of love life every day, because you don't know if you have tomorrow. It's not guaranteed. We learned that this year, especially with guys like Piana and McCarver, and of course, Shawn Perine, who passed away, Sean Harris, another guy from Bev Francis Paris Gym, we died in a horrific car accident. So nothing's guaranteed in life. So guys, I love the fact that we get at the end of the year to sit down and have a fun debate with guys that I've come up in this industry with and I respect enormously. Chris and of course John and Greg. I mean, we've worked together for many, many years together. We're all brothers, no matter who's paying our paycheck. We always seem to somehow coalesce back together again. And that energy that's there, it's palpable, it's positive, it's fun, and I think people can really wrap their hands around it. And obviously the addition of Sid to the team and Tyler, I think just adds to that. And I think that's why RxMuscle is such a popular channel, because it's more than just us bitching and complaining. It's more than us pointing out about bubble guts. It's more than us trying to say, I'm going to get the next guy. It's something real. We created something here. It's original content. It's fun. And we don't take ourselves too seriously. And I think that's something that you can't put a price tag on ever. And guys, I love you all, and I really appreciate everything you do for the sport and the support you show for RxMuscle.
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead, Greg.
We gained one thing this year, a new fan. Well, a potential, maybe even competitor, who knows? I hope not. But Dave Palumbo, congratulations on the birth of your new baby girl.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much.
A new addition to the RX family.
Yes. Nice Italian name, too. Aria.
I love it. I love that name. I don't know where Logan came from, but fucking Aria, I love that.
I like how he puts on Facebook, you know, how long her arms are, how round her head is, how many inches her feet are, her legs are around the belly, and he leaves out her body fat percentage.
They wouldn't let me test it. That's why. They said, hands
funny.
off.
But just don't let her work. Let her work out recreationally. Keep her away from this fucking.
Yeah, don't let her
sport.
be in this sport.
Yeah.
Holy Christ.
Don't worry, my wife won't let her.
Well, on that note, again, we thank Chris, the technician, Aceto, GREGG Valentino, and of course, boss number 2, John Romano, for joining us. As always, for our producer, Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi, wishing you the best on this upcoming New Year's in 2018. Whatever it is that you have on your mind, whatever goals that it is that you have determined, crush it, and let's join it together and have a great 2018. You're watching RxMuscle, Rx Television. Keep it locked. Subscribe to YouTube, RxMuscle.com.
Sid, you rock. You're next.
Make us relevant.
Next for